Good evening. Buenas noches, damas y caballeros. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am very honored to be here and proud to serve as the ACLU's ambassador for immigrants' rights. It is my privilege to talk about a man who's dedicated his life to fight for immigrants' rights in a place and time where more than 12 million undocumented workers are still waiting for immigration reform, to honor the invaluable work they do for this country. And when thousands of refugees, children, women, and men are treated like animals in detention centers all across the U.S. South border. To watch recordings of Ahilan arguing in this nation's highest courts is to witness a legal mind that is nothing short of dazzling. With breathtaking speed, even in response to a judge's challenge, Ahilan cites constitutional principles, legal concepts, precedents, regulations, and even current events to build intellectual cathedrals out of thin air. More than one judge has begged him to slow down as they took it all in. It is indeed breathtaking. But for Ahilan, it is not an intellectual exercise. It's certainly no game. His work in court and the years of work that go into developing his arguments affects thousands upon thousands of lives, often people who could never hope to be represented at all, let alone by a person who is at its pinnacle of human rights work. He was born into it. Ahilan's parents fled race discrimination and the threat of violence in their native Sri Lanka to emigrate to this country. And although Ahilan was born here and grew up in Southern California, it was in a home often filled with extended family members who also fled danger. As a young fellow at the ACLU in New York during 9/11, he worked with detained immigrants, witnessing firsthand the immediate backlash against Muslims and people perceived to be Muslim. And it was from that moment, as the Bush administration began to build a dragnet of oppression under the veil of national security, Ahilan's North Star came into shape. For the next 20 years at the ACLU, Ahilan dedicated himself to make clear that the struggle of immigrants and refugees is an American struggle, our collective struggle. And his profound legal work demonstrates that, for instance, his victory in the landmark Franco case established the right to a lawyer for detained immigrants with severe mental disabilities. A groundbreaking legal theory that I won't dare to explain. Today, at the UCLA School of Law, where he teaches and co-directs its Immigration Law Center, he inspires young human rights attorneys to reach that North Star. Moral clarity, rigorous analysis, and courage, Ahilan once said, are the key attributes of leadership in times of crisis. And so tonight, I'm honored to present the Bill of Rights Award to a person who best embodies these attributes. A true human rights leader, Ahilan Arulanantham.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for the kind introduction, Demián. That was really, really kind of you. Thank you for the moving video. Thank you, Jouissance. That was mind-boggling. I had no idea. Surely the first time there's been 16th century choral music sung at an ACLU Bill of Rights dinner, right? That was, whoa. And thank you all for all the love tonight, truly. You know, it's been a really, really magical day for me to see so many people who've been on this journey with me for so long. I've just been filled with love and joy the whole day. It's just been mind-boggling. There are 11 people here for whom I feel particularly blessed to have them here with us. And their presence here tonight is particularly meaningful for me. So I want to start by recognizing them. And I'd ask the following people to please stand. Ahilan Arulanantham. Alex Rodriguez, who we heard earlier, amazing. Amadou Diouf, Raymond Sowet, Cindy Sowet, Iyad Barakat from the LA8, Ali Malik. Ali, your words were so moving. Ali Malik. Krista Ramos, who you saw in that video, an amazing young immigrant leader. Her mom, Cristina Morales. Benjamin Cepeda, another young, amazing immigrant leader. And his father, Orlando Cepeda. All of them, I'm so proud to say, to brag before you here today, all of them my clients. So let me tell you just a little about them. 5 of the people I just mentioned were jailed in the immigration prisons without trial, collectively for more than 12 years. 3 of them were tortured, 2 by our government. 3, one of whom you heard from Ali, were falsely smeared as potential national security threats, but really targeted because of their political beliefs, their religious beliefs, or their race. And 4 of them remain to this day, the TPS holders, threatened with the prospect of family separation or deportation, despite living in this country lawfully for more than 20 years, and for 2 of them, Krista and Ben, that's literally their whole life because they're born in this country. You know. But you know what? They're all here, okay? And here, not as victims, but as heroes, as the authors of their own stories. Okay? They are loving parents, as you've seen, educators, essential healthcare workers, college students, philanthropists, and activists for justice both here and in their home countries. They are successful business people, and even in one case, a crypto investor, although I'm not totally sure how well that's going at the moment. 2 of them have already been naturalized as US citizens by the same country that targeted them. Yeah. And I will be representing a 3rd at his naturalization interview next week. Okay? You know, although I didn't really understand it for a long time, even though I was doing this work, I've come to realize that all of my work and all of our task as people in the immigrants' rights movement, and I think even more broadly, right, is really to one simple aim, is just to have the world see all people as the full humans that they are. Right? That's it. That's all it amounts to. You know? So, to all of you, to the 11 of you, special friends of mine, You have inspired me. You know, the opportunity to support you along your life's journey, that has been the greatest honor of my life. And your presence here tonight, it's the finest award I could ever have received. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much. So as you can tell, just seeing them fills my heart with joy, right? I can't help but be just enriched by their presence. But at the same time, also as I see them, I think about other cases. And I'm reminded of other people for whom we fought just as fiercely, just as hard, but who aren't here today because we lost. You know, this work is hard. It drains you. It drains you mentally and emotionally. It tests your patience. It tests your resolve. You know, I still have nightmares. I had one just, I think, about 6 weeks ago about our years-long unsuccessful effort in multiple courts to get the federal government to provide lawyers to children facing deportation. And it still has not happened to this day, even in the Biden administration. You know, and that's not the only case we lost. In fact, several of the rules that we won, in the case of my friends and clients who are here tonight, are now under attack. And some have already been wiped away by, I hate to say it, but it's true, our anti-immigrant reactionary Supreme Court. So I have had dark moments, and I still do. I won't lie to you and say that it's never like that. And you know, sometimes when things just go really bad, you have to do something completely different. That's part of why I sing. It is completely different. It's also actually why I have a fish tank. I have a really big fish tank in my house, and I swear those fish, they got me through the Trump administration, you know. I love it. I'll get to tell them that you all clap for them. It's going to be the greatest thing. So my advice for tonight, especially for my younger fellow travelers who are just beginning a career or maybe just not quite as far as me in work for social justice, find your fish tank. Find that thing which fills you up when you're down, and it will allow you to continue to do this work for longer. But since the fish tank isn't here, the fish aren't here tonight, we brought jouissance, but not the fish. Let me thank some others who have helped me get through these really difficult moments. First, I must thank my wife, Laboni. You know, she's my rock. She's my rock, and she's also my muse. And she's a brilliant civil rights litigator. You know, she is. So that means that she hears the first and worst versions of all of my most important arguments, right? In fact, she heard every part of the speech except for this part. And as she knows, as you know, every victory of mine is a victory of yours as well. I have also found a great amount of joy in the friendship of other people in the immigrants' rights movement and in my ACLU family. And although others have done it, I have to thank you all so much for putting on this amazing event and just for seeing all my ACLU friends. You know, nothing truly important is ever the work of just one person. Remember that. Nothing truly important is ever the work of just one person. And that has certainly been true for me. You know, every case you heard described as mine was the work of a team. And over time, as we have gone through our ups and downs together, my colleagues, they've really become some of my closest friends. And my fellow travelers in the work of doing human rights, they have become the people I have held closest in some of the most important times of my life, both good and bad. And that has been a truly unexpected reward. It's a gift I never would have imagined that when I began this work 20 years ago, that would be a part of my life that would grow as I did this. Finally, I have long found inspiration in the example set by my parents. You know, as Demián mentioned, they left Sri Lanka in the face of sporadic violence against our community. We are Tamils from the Northeast. and built a life here for me and my brother. And we grew up with a small group of other Sri Lankan Tamils in Lancaster, California. Those are the gorgeous people over at table 35, in fact, some of them. When I was 10 years old, the Sri Lankan government began a war that would become a genocide against our community, the Sri Lankan Tamils. More than 1 million of us fled the country during that time. And my parents responded to this by, as Demián mentioned, welcoming our relatives who were fleeing the conflict into our home. And this was very common in the Tamil community across the whole world. The diaspora of Tamil people protected other Tamil people who were fleeing the conflict. And eventually our relatives settled down, but others kept coming. And my parents took them in too. And in the end, we had people fleeing the conflict living in our house for more than a decade. So, I grew up in a crowded house. But to paraphrase the Greek poet Dinos Christianopoulos, they thought they had buried us, but they didn't know that we were seeds. And 40 years later, the traumatic experience that our community went through during those difficult years has left us, our extended family and our broader community, stronger than it ever was before. Stronger than we were before. And there's now a transnational movement of people that supports the Tamil community across the globe. Now, I tell that story for two reasons. First is to pay homage to my parents, whose example in responding to the conflict in Sri Lanka to this day, still to this day, working for justice there, that has always been my true North Star. And second, I say it to offer hope. Hope to everyone watching what is happening in this country today. My father once said that when he was in high school, witnessing some of the first widespread violence against our community in Sri Lanka, he could never have imagined how quickly the country would descend into civil war. And I think about that a lot nowadays, not just for Sri Lanka either. We live in really difficult times, and democracy is under threat in this country. Nobody watching what is happening, if you're paying any attention, could have any serious doubt about that. So I don't know what the future holds, either for the immigrants' rights movement or for the country as a whole. But I know this: those of us who believe in justice, we are not going away. We are not going away. Our roots are planted firmly in this ground, and we are growing. And for me, it's only been 20 years. I'm just getting started. Thanks very much, everyone. Thank you so much. I love you, ACLU. Thank you.